Hi, good afternoon. I want to discuss recent events in the media. Now let's look at the big picture here for a few minutes. Since Obama's taken office, of course, we've seen a big switch back to traditional right-wing radio that we were brought up on. We've seen a resurgence, of course, the Rush Limbaughs and all the Hannitys and Beck especially, with which to further entrench us into the left-right paradigm. Now, of course, the right-wing talk show hosts didn't really lambast Bush very much while they were in office. They mostly pushed him on fiscal policy, and they backed the war. So we all know this. But lately, of course, what's going on in the media? We've got some new tricks in the playbook, or maybe a resurgence of old tricks that we haven't seen in some time. And now that the awakening masses, or at least the people that are able to see through it slightly ahead of the rest, that are willing to as well, they're pulling out some interesting things. Well, what? We've got, the stack, the IRS crashed into the IRS building. We've got this Pentagon shooter. We've got Beck flip-flopping on environmentalism. We've got Ahmadinejad, of course, being called out, or calling out issues on 9/11. What do all these things have in common? Well, eventually, we're going to have to see a merging of the media. In fact, we're seeing the beginnings of the merging of left and right. One, to absorb the alternative media, kind of like they did with the Tea Party movement. How is that? Well, we saw it happen with the Tea Party movement quite efficiently. But will it work with 9/11? The answer is no, of course not. Unless, and maybe I'm jumping ahead here, because this was supposed to be one of my final conclusions, but unless, and you can set this up a number of different ways. Why would the media take on 9/11 truth when they know they cannot win? And every time I ask myself that question, I come up with the same inevitable answer, and that is that, one, they're going to try to absorb the alternative media. One, of course, why? For ratings, naturally. But ratings and revenue, right? But two, they can't win because they can't debate the facts. So why do it? Why call people on the carpet when you can put Alex Jones on Geraldo Rivera again and have him easily win, quote, if you want to call it win, or at least make them look foolish almost. So their purpose has got to be, in the end, and I've been discussing this and thinking about it for the last 2 years, is that all this discussion about whether Alex Jones is disinformation or not, it doesn't matter anymore. It really doesn't even matter. Why? Well, first of all, primarily because if the mainstream media is going to absorb the alternative news media and start reporting things that matter, then the only conclusion you can come to is that the elite have as much of a vested interest in the awakening of the masses now that the river is flowing and the word is out. They have just as much of a vested interest in the awakening as the truth movement does, or in general, the awakening as to the greater deceptions beyond 9/11 and our entire history and the fabrication, as deep as you want to go with it. So, now, on the surface, if you've never thought about this before, this may seem maybe ridiculous, but think about it for a moment. What's the difference whether Alex Jones is paid disinformation or not? He's on Fox News now. the elite probably want violence in the end. And of course, nobody that you know, and nobody that I know would ever abdicate violence. The only thing anybody would try to do is defend themselves. And that's just the way it is with most of the truth seekers, 9/11, you name it, spiritual, anybody, everybody. Or they're not part of it. I mean, this guy, the Pentagon shooter's not part of it, despite whether he understood some basic truths or not. He was a lunatic if you committed violence. We understand that. But the media, the powers that be, want to take over the whole movement, absorb as much of it as possible, and contribute to the awakening now just as much as Alex Jones does, because they want to rile the masses. Their fear card is always one of their number one traditional plays is to keep them in fear. And that's going to keep them in fear. Not only that, you got Fox News promoting potential environmentalism now. And that's going to confuse people. And then putting an Alex Jones on Fox News is going to confuse people even more. So some people will simply shut down and walk away from it, just like a lot of people have over the years from politics in general and participation in the system. Or they're just going to serve to wake more people up, which is what will probably happen in a lot of cases. So they hope that the fear card and the early awakening process, which sometimes can be fear instead of empowerment at first, sparks that. So anyway, I don't mean to go on too much, but there's other ways to look at it that I can't touch upon here because there's not enough time. But nevertheless, I think these things are happening. And so the media is starting to try to do this, but it's not going to work for 9/11 like it did the Tea Party. So can't. Have a good day.